Ladies and gentlemen, the following segment of the podcast is presented exclusively by Hillsdale College. For over 175 years, four purposes have defined Hillsdale's mission: learning, character, faith, and freedom. Thank you for listening, and my sincere appreciation to our brothers and sisters at Hillsdale for their great sponsorship.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
America, Mark Levin. Our number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. The propaganda, the narrative, the cover-up started in earnest today, but I could smell it yesterday, couldn't I? I could smell it yesterday. This is the greatest airlift in American history. It just shows how fantastic this administration is. We've never seen anything like this before. 80,000 people have been removed so far, they tell us. They have reconfigured their numbers of American citizens. It was anywhere from 11 to 15,000. Now it's 6,000 with 4,500 removed. Amazing how these numbers adjust, how flexible they are. I don't care if we get 50 million people out of Afghanistan. If one American is there and our government doesn't get that one American out, and there's some terrible things going on here. The Secretary of State said today, essentially, our effort to get Americans and allies out of Afghanistan doesn't end on August 31. I will do everything diplomatically and economically to get them out of there. Well, we have a slight military presence, and you haven't done everything to get them out of there. So this is more of the new propaganda. Just because they're there doesn't mean we've left them behind, you know. Just because we surrendered, look at this fantastic airlift we have going on here. And by the way, the American military will do whatever it's asked to do, and it'll do it better than anybody else. This has nothing to do with the American military, except at the highest ranks. And everything to do with Joe Biden and the buffoons that surround him. Remember this from yesterday, and I'm doing this for a reason. Cut one from yesterday. Go. So stop. This is one of the guys who's now going to try and push the propaganda and the narrative. So this is the most successful airlift in the history of people, as opposed to something else, I guess. Which is why they keep throwing the numbers out there without the denominator. Now what it is the most massive hostage situation the world has ever seen. Because people who want to leave can't leave. Whether they're American citizens, whether they're allies of ours, whether they're just anybody. Go ahead.
Operation that only the U.S. military could perform.
Yeah, only the U.S. military could perform this, but only politicians like Biden et al. Could screw it up. He seemed quite happy. He seemed almost jocular. Did he not, Mr. Producer? He doesn't see what's big deal. Started off bad. Well, we're getting our footing now. Just in time to get out. It's all right. It's disgusting. He's disgusting. This is an insurrection that's taking place in Afghanistan. Just for the media in this country to know what an insurrection looks like, it looks like this. Armed. People getting maimed and killed and brutalized. That's an insurrection. But apparently it's quite tolerable to Joe Biden and Eugene Robinson and their ilk. No pushback from the morning schmo, of course. Thinks everything's going swimmingly. It's not a big deal. Then there was this, cut two. The greatest airlift in history, ladies and gentlemen. It's the greatest surrender in American history. It's the greatest surrender in American history. And they're trying to spin it. If you don't despise these people as much as I do, I don't get it. Oh, it's going to be one of the greatest airlifts in America. And the Democrats are saying the same thing as Eugene Robinson, you know, the the corrupt Praetorian Guard media. We don't want the greatest airlift in American history because that's the result of the greatest surrender in American history. But look at what they're praising themselves on. Look at how they're praising themselves. Politico, White House to media, we won our props on Afghanistan. The president and his team have taken it on the chin for the past week. Now amid a massive evacuation effort, they want kudos too. They want to be celebrated. They want to be thanked. In the span of a week, writes Natasha Karecki, that is her name, the White House went from struggling to explain a rapidly deteriorating situation in Afghanistan to beating its chest. Beating its chest. People, as I speak, are being slaughtered over there. We don't have cameras in the rural areas that the Taliban control, and Al-Qaeda, and now ISIS. We get these stories. You see them on the internet. We get these stories about how people are being slaughtered. Why do you think there's hundreds of thousands of people trying to get out of that country? Top Biden officials and administration allies have begun aggressively touting the success of their evacuation efforts in the war-torn country, offering frequent updates on the number of evacuees. They framed the operation as historic in line with the Berlin airlift. I said all this yesterday. I could smell it. I could hear it. Declared that they're overperforming their own metrics and trumpeted the president as defying expectations. It's a startling 180 from the defensive crouch Biden and his team occupied just days ago, one that reflects the sense of combativeness and has emerged in the West Wing as they sort through the first major sustained crisis of the administration. Oh, yeah, the first one, but forget about the border. And while it sparked accusation, the president's team is trying to divert attention away from a crisis of its own creation. Biden's defenders to stress that, for now at least, he deserves to crow. Philip Raines, this putz, is a nobody. He had his head so far up Hillary's tuchus. It's still there as far as I'm concerned. That's not a shifting message, he says. That's the transition. That's what's happening on the ground. That's a change of circumstances. The administration, starting with Secretary of State Tony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Raines said had been working at an incredible tempo to get the situation under control. So now it's not even the military. It's the feckless, buffoonish Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. And with the media, I warned you before, people, the media have turned on Biden. No, there's some clips and there's a little bit. But the media will turn right back. You watch. I know there have been reports on TV and elsewhere. Look at them. They're turning on Biden. The media's had enough. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. The media are corrupt. Capital K, Mr. Producer. Corrupt. Market's a C. I know. But for them, we live in America with a K. So they like Ks, not Cs. And, of course, Antony Blinken, a buffoon that's going to cost people lives and already has. He thanked himself today. Cut 3, go.
This is one of the largest airlifts in history, a massive military, diplomatic, security, and humanitarian undertaking. It's a testament both to U.S. leadership and to the strength of our alliances and partnerships.
There you go. It's fantastic. We've never seen anything like this before. Look, ignore the hundreds of thousands of people surrounding the airport, now stepping in their own feces. The sewage has backed up. People are hungry. They're begging to get in. They can't get in. They're being whipped, some shot, some brutalized in other ways by the Taliban. Ignore it. This is a fantastic event. It's unbelievable. And, of course, forget about the 75,000 U.S. vehicles, 600,000 weapons, 208 planes that we left behind. Forget about, hey, it's okay. Forget about that country becoming a terrorist haven like we've never seen in human history. Hey, it's okay. Has no ramification. Look at this. We've sent our huge freight aircraft and bringing people in by the tens of thousands. Cut 4, go.
Many of you have asked how many U.S. citizens remain in Afghanistan who want to leave the country. Based on our analysis, starting on August 14, When our evacuation operations began, there was then a population of as many as 6,000 American citizens in Afghanistan.
That's not even believable. They went from 15,000 to 6,000? How did that happen? Well, they did what I suggested they do, count the passports. But I said you may get the majority of the number. You're not going to get them all. You're not going to get them all. Because some people will travel to, say, France and then travel to another country and then travel and go into Afghanistan, and there's no real way to track them in the United States system. This was told to me today. And Dan Crenshaw, one of the great members of the House of Representatives, he also explained that there's many ways that this would somehow avoid the State Department computers. But here's the thing. He says, we're not going to leave anybody behind. Even when we leave, we're not going to leave anybody behind. Here he says it. Cut 5. Go.
As the President said yesterday, we're on track to complete our mission by August 31st, provided...
They're going to complete their mission by August 31st. They're going to complete their mission, their surrender mission, by August 31st. That's their mission. No matter what. But are they really completing it by August 31st? Listen carefully. Go.
You to cooperate, and there are no disruptions to this effort. The President has also asked for contingency plans in case he determines that we must remain in the country past that date.
Now, he's not going to remain in the country past the date. Go ahead.
But let me be crystal clear about this.
Here we go.
There is no deadline on our work to help any remaining American citizens who decide they want to leave to do so, along with the many Afghans who have stood by us over these many years and want to leave and have been unable to do so. That effort will continue every day past August 31st.
And he was pressed on this. How are you going to do that? Well, with diplomatic and economic pressure. We have no intel. We have no military. We have no diplomatics and nothing there. Zero. Well, we're going to continue to press like hell, man. I tell you what. The Taliban are really concerned about what we say now. They want to be in the community of nations. Ladies and gentlemen, we're living in multiple worlds here. Joe Biden's world is a world of sick, narcissistic, dangerous fumes that even Lysol can't fix. They create this disaster. Now they claim credit for fixing this disaster. Mission accomplished. We heard that one before. But even if the mission is accomplished, I may tell you, after August 31, let me be crystal clear. Anybody left, we're going to see diplomacy like you've never seen it before. Oh, my God, we're going to be diplomatic in ways that people have never been diplomatic before. And economically, the Taliban, we're going to deny them all kinds of stuff. These clowns live in the mountains. All they need are goats. That's all they need are goats. They befriend the goats. They eat the goats. Goats, that's all, the Taliban. You're being lied to, America. You're being lied to. There's a full-scale, full-throated propaganda campaign taking place now. We've seen it in other wars that have gone sour, battles that have gone south. There's no deadline, but they set a deadline. There's 15,000 citizens, but now there's 6,000 citizens. And now this disaster is the greatest rescue mission in history. We had all these contingencies. We were ready, ladies and gentlemen. We were ready. No matter what, we were set. This is sick. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
American history and civics education is at a turning point. Will we allow bureaucrats and lobbyists to choose what school children are taught, or will we teach the whole truth? Now, my friends at Hillsdale College argue for teaching the truth. They've made the Hillsdale 1776 curriculum downloadable for free at ləʻvɪnforhillsdale.com. Available not only to teachers, but also to citizens like you to share with other concerned citizens. This complete K-12 history and civics curriculum, designed to give educators guidance, not mandates, allows students to learn the tragedies and triumphs of American history as it really happened. Our children deserve to be taught the truth through a sound curriculum that was created by teachers, not bureaucrats, and upholds the dignity of each individual. America's future depends upon an honest, candid look at our history. Download Hillsdale's 1776 curriculum for free today at ləvɪn4hillsdale.com. That's L-E-V-I-N for Hillsdale.com. By the way, folks, people contact me, I want to point out. American Marxism is number one on the New York Times hardcover nonfiction list and the nonfiction hardcover and ebook combined lists. We were alerted today that's 6 weeks in a row. 6 weeks in a row. Now, I can't do this forever, obviously, but that is a fantastic run, and I want to thank you folks very, very much for it. The book has been widely credited and supported, certainly throughout much of conservative media. On the crap media, it's basically been silent, except for a few backbench low-life types and a guy by the name of Tom Nichols, whose book came out the other day. I think it's number 712 on the Amazon list. I don't know. Nobody knows who he is, and nobody much cares. And some guy, what is his name? Zachary, hold on a second here. Something with a P, that's right. I'm trying to see his name. Zachary P., is that what we should call him? I'm trying to find it. Sorry, guys. Zachary, Petrezzo, who works for Salon. Used to be a conservative. Used to write for Campus Reform. Humiliated himself at a recent CPAC. We'll get into him, I think, Friday. We'll take some time on Zachary P. Now he's gone to the dark side over at Salon, and he's found a horrific mistake in my book. Something I've already talked to you about a couple of times. About the Franklin School as opposed to the Frankfurt School. Oh, this book is a horrendous, disastrous piece of scholarship. The punk hasn't even read it. He certainly hasn't read, he hasn't read much, actually. But that on another day, probably Friday. More when I return. American history and civics education is at a turning point. Will we allow bureaucrats and lobbyists to choose what school children are taught, or will we teach the whole truth? Now, my friends at Hillsdale College argue for teaching the truth. They've made the Hillsdale 1776 curriculum downloadable for free at ləvɪn4hillsdale.com. Available not only to teachers, but also to citizens like you to share with other concerned citizens. This complete K-12 history and civics curriculum, designed to give educators guidance, not mandates, allows students to learn the tragedies and triumphs of American history as it really happened. Our children deserve to be taught the truth through a sound curriculum that was created by teachers, not bureaucrats, and upholds the dignity of each individual. America's future depends upon an honest, candid look at our history. Download Hillsdale's 1776 curriculum for free today at ləvɪn4hillsdale.com. That's L-E-V-I-N for Hillsdale.com.
When Mark Levin was a kid, his teachers didn't like his snide sense of humor. Today, they still don't like it. Call Mark Levin now at 877-381-3811.
I think I'll make that kid famous or infamous. Just a matter of time. John Kirby, Pentagon spokesman, made a press conference today, and I want you to listen to what he said vis-a-vis what Blinken had to say. Cut 9, go.
Outside of that, the Taliban have set up checkpoints. We've talked about this before, and we are in daily communication with Taliban commanders about who we want to see get in and what the credentials are, what they look like, what's valid, and that communication happens literally every day. We have been nothing but open with the Taliban about who we expect them to let in. Again, fully recognize that it's that not every step of this process is in our firm control, and that there are going to be incidences where it doesn't work as advertised.
I think there'll be a lot of incidences like that. And does that sound like the jolly good story that Blinken was talking about, Mr. Producer? Doesn't to me. Cut 10, go.
If you're an evacuee that we can get out, we're going to continue to get you out.
On the 31st.
Right up until the end. But in those last couple of days, we're going to try to preserve as much capability as we can at the airport, as you might imagine. So in those last couple of days, we will begin to prioritize military capabilities and military resources to move out.
All right, so it's not a week, it's less than that. And this is why you're getting the propaganda from the State Department and Blinken himself about we're going to continue to fight for the release of citizens after the 31st using diplomacy and economics. Because we won't be there. There's not a damn thing. We're going to, hope for the good faith of the Taliban. Because we know they fear our economy or economic sanctions, and we know they fear our diplomacy. Now, how ridiculous is this? And they want kudos, according to Politico. They're the full court press that we should celebrate them. And so, of course, Eugene Robinson does exactly that, as do and will most of the media in America. And you're going to see this propaganda now. And you're seeing it today. And as Right Scoop points out, Pentagon spokesperson, you just heard him suggest they will leave behind evacuees they can't get out. But then they want you to believe, and they pretend, we're not leaving anyone behind. Just because we pulled out militarily, we're going to use diplomacy and economics. Now, that's absolutely absurd. And this is why Representative Waltz and some of the others are saying this is the greatest hostage situation in American history. People who want to get out. Is there a single American who wants to stay? What kind of talk is this? When something sounds weird, it is weird. When something sounds weird, it is weird. And it sounds weird. And let's see. Blinken also suggested there are roughly 500 Americans remaining in Afghanistan who wish to be evacuated. Noted that I'm reading from National Review, that out of 6,000 U.S. citizens who stated they wanted to leave, when the evacuation effort began, 4,500 U.S. passport holders were rescued, leaving 1,500 people, approximately 500 of whom are still actively looking for passage out. Well, how do we know the other 1,000 aren't? But maybe they don't have access to electricity or iPhones or computers or whatever. They can't email. They can't text. The numbers he cited do not include those in possession of a U.S. green card. Reporters confirmed at the press conference. The State Department, National Review writes, is trying to ascertain the status of about 1,000 U.S. citizens who have not contacted the government, explicitly requesting evacuation. At a subsequent briefing, White House Press Secretary Psaki said the administration believes as many of 1,000 who are currently unaccounted for may be dual citizens of the U.S. and Afghanistan. But the number's fluid, they said. The number's fluid. And the Taliban have made public and private commitments to them. The number Blinken provided Wednesday contradicts the estimate the State Department revealed earlier in the day to congressional staffers, who were told that 4,100 U.S. citizens remain in Afghanistan and wish to be evacuated. I don't trust this State Department. How do you go from 4,100 to 1,500 and ultimately 1,000 in the period of a few hours? Earlier Wednesday, the Pentagon confirmed that 19,000 evacuees exited Afghanistan in the last 24 hours. So, Americans who want to leave. You know, they act like all these Americans have free will over there in Afghanistan, don't they, America? Oh, I'd like to leave, but I'm afraid somebody's going to kill me if I leave my house. Now, how do we know this? Because Fox has had a number of people on their programs who've said exactly that. They've also had people in the United States, Afghan Americans, who have family in Afghanistan. They said they can't get them out and that they've been in touch with the State Department. Now, that's pretty frightening, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is. What are we going to do about it? Don't worry. So here's what they've done, and they think they're clever. I really want you to think about this. This is important. August 31 is the deadline, and it's a hard deadline. They're pulling the troops out, what's left. But they want you to believe it's really not a hard deadline in the sense that we're still going to get people out. But we just won't use the military. So you can go to bed okay here in America. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. You know, when politicians and press secretaries and others lower themselves to this kind of sophistry, this kind of propaganda, you should be very, very concerned about it. Very concerned. Tell me, how are these American citizens, by August 31st, how are they going to get food in Afghanistan? How are they going to eat? In fact, how are they going to communicate? How do we even know they're going to be allowed to communicate? I despise the double talk to begin with, but when you're in a situation like this, the double talk is 1,000 times worse. It's 1,000 times worse. So let's understand, we've gone from 15,000 to 4,100 this morning to 1,500 in the afternoon to really 1,500 who haven't been in contact with us. Okay. Wow, they whittled that down very fast, didn't they? And we don't have any idea, really, because a lot of these people can't contact authorities. They just can't. God knows where some of the Americans are. This caught them by surprise, too, the way this was handled. This caught them by surprise, too. But don't worry, even though we're getting our troops out, we're still going to get out any other citizens because of diplomacy and economic pressures. No, they're not. So they want you to believe they're not going to leave people behind, but they are going to leave people behind. You had a Democrat and Republican who served in Afghanistan, who went over there yesterday or the day before. They're being attacked by Pelosi. You don't get to go there by yourselves. I seem to recall Pelosi went to Syria by herself, and the prior speaker, right, he went to Nicaragua. But that aside, they said there's no way they're getting out. You know, even had Adam Schiff, after he was briefed, he had some truth serum. He said there's no way. It's very unlikely everyone's going to get out by the 31st. Because that's what the intelligence briefing is telling people on the relevant committees. It ain't going to work. And so the Secretary of State, who is essentially a pathetic Secretary of State and a propagandist, they came up with a new idea. Let me be crystal clear. Which cut is that, Mr. Producer? Let me be crystal clear. Do you have it, Rich? It's 1, 2, 3, or 4. Let me help you. Hold on, everybody. It's on the list. I think it's cut. Hold on, everyone. Boy. Stick with me. Here it is. Let us go to cut 5, please. Go.
As the President said yesterday, we're on track to complete our mission by August 31st, provided the Taliban continue to cooperate and there are no disruptions to this effort. The President has also asked for contingency plans in case he determines that we must remain in the country past
now,
that date.
That's all fine, but he has no intention of using them. They just want their press people to be able to say it. That's it. There's no contingency plan for the military to stay. None. None that they're going to use anyway. Go ahead.
But let me be crystal clear about this. There is no deadline on our work to help any remaining American citizens who decide they want to leave to do so, along with the many Afghans who have stood by us over these many years and want to leave and have been unable to do so.
Now, what does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? That means nothing. Absolutely nothing. We don't have any ability to know if they're there. We have no ability to get them out. We have no leverage whatsoever. None. And if you want to get out of Afghanistan, why would you wait till after August 31st? There are people who want to get out and cannot get out. We're going to be leaving a lot of people behind. And if this is our government's official propaganda, which it is, and those people are eventually slaughtered, other than their families going on Fox and going to some of the other few media outlets that really want to know the truth, how are we going to know? So they've put these families in impossible situations. They put the American public in an impossible situation. I want to remind you, and I wrote about this at some length and on freedom of the press, but really there's three professors who've done a fantastic job in exposing the New York Times. It really wasn't until 1944 that the readers of the New York Times knew the full extent of Hitler's attempt to exterminate the European Jews. 1944. So when will we know the full extent of the number of Americans who've been left behind in this horrific surrender? But the greatest airlift in human history. Maybe never. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
American history and civics education is at a turning point. Will we allow bureaucrats and lobbyists to choose what school children are taught, or will we teach the whole truth? Now, my friends at Hillsdale College argue for teaching the truth. They've made the Hillsdale 1776 curriculum downloadable for free at ləʻvɪn.com. Available not only to teachers, but also to citizens like you to share with other concerned citizens. This complete K-12 history and civics curriculum, designed to give educators guidance, not mandates, allows students to learn the tragedies and triumphs of American history as it really happened. Our children deserve to be taught the truth through a sound curriculum that was created by teachers, not bureaucrats, and upholds the dignity of each individual. America's future depends upon an honest, candid look at our history. Download Hillsdale's 1776 curriculum for free today at ləʻvɪn.com. That's L-E-V-I-N for Hillsdale.com. What else are you seeing in the media? Well, I told you yesterday, and you see it today, about Joe Biden deserves credit for the most fantastic surrender in world history. Let me show you what else I'm seeing bleed into our media here. And that is that, the Taliban really do seem to be changing. They're making all kinds of promises here. They say they will work with us after the fact. You heard Blinken say it, so what Blinken says, the media will regurgitate. And yet NBC is now reporting, this just broke, that the Taliban the spokes-terrorist, said that there's no evidence Osama bin Laden was involved in 9/11. What do you think of that, Mr. Producer? There's no evidence Osama bin Laden was involved in 9/11, but we're going to believe this guy when he says, yeah, well, sure. After August 31, you just show up with your papers, we'll let you through. I don't know whose propaganda is worse, the Taliban or the Biden administration. The Taliban or the Biden administration. They're both lying. And the Biden administration wants you to believe that you can rely on the Taliban, but we're going to be very careful. Well, we know who they are. Yeah. They speak out of both sides of the mouth. We know they're dangerous. We know who they are. But they promised. They said, We have to rely on their word because that's all they've got, the Biden administration, when they pulled the military out the first time and they're pulling it out again. That which they sent to make sure the surrender went smoothly. Well, the surrender isn't going smoothly. And these people are effectively hostages in Afghanistan. They can't get out. Now put yourself in their position. You're an American citizen and you're hearing the Secretary of State say, well, it's really their fault. They didn't contact us early enough. Or we've sent out 19 messages, and by the way, I don't know if somebody got 19 messages. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I read to you one of the forms, I think it was last week, which was ridiculous. It goes on and on. Hey, we need 2 pieces of evidence of your utility bills and a passport and maybe a driver's license from North Carolina. And we need, what are you talking about? And still, Mr. Producer, it's out there. I saw on TV. The Afghans, they just wouldn't fight. Now, we've talked about this at length. We've had a general on the program. We've had a colonel on the program, both of whom fought in Afghanistan. We've had men who lost limbs on the program who fought in Afghanistan. They said that's not true. When you pulled the air power, the intelligence, pulled the rug out from under them, when you shut down our main airport, our military airport, Bagram, without telling them in the middle of the night, they knew they didn't have a chance. And they all say the same thing. Over the last 7 years, the Afghans lost 50,000 men. I don't think they were all shot in the back. Do you, Rich? No, I don't think they were all shot in the back running. All the tough guys out there, they wouldn't fight. We can't prop them up. They seem to forget. We were not in Afghanistan for us. And now that we've left and left the way that we've left, we're in deep S. Border's still open. Same crap going on. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a lot more. I shall return. I hope you will too. We'll be right back.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Now, simultaneous to all this that's taking place, by the way, good to see that there is talk of impeachment when it comes to Biden, since we started that right here behind this microphone and on my appearance on Hannity a couple of weeks ago, even before this Afghanistan situation, where he was defying the Supreme Court, opening the borders, attacking our separation of powers under our constitutional system. Seems to me an easy case can be made. High crimes and misdemeanors. They don't mean he killed somebody or he jaywalked. That's not what's meant by high crimes and misdemeanors. We've talked about this for years. It's a dereliction of duty, basically. It's taking steps that harm the United States of America, and in his case, he will not rectify any of them. So clearly he should be impeached, and the Democrats even lower the bar when it comes to impeachment. There's no question he should be impeached. There's no question should be removed. He's not going to be, but it doesn't matter. But Mark, what about Kamala Harris? I said he won't be removed, but he ought to be impeached, okay? The process matters. The challenge matters. It certainly does. So while all this is going on, people are asking, why was Joe Biden delayed 4 hours yesterday when he gave his comments? I believe Brett Baer said there were 5.5 minutes on this $3.5 trillion bill, which is $5.5 trillion in actuality. More people are starting to figure that out. And about 7.5 minutes on Afghanistan, which is outrageous. Guy does about 15 minutes total. And the answer is this, folks. He spent 4 hours, or a good chunk of those 4 hours, calling members of the Democrat Party, urging them to vote on this $5 trillion monstrosity, and I'm going to get into more details about that $5 trillion monstrosity in a little bit. They have all the voting changes in there. They have all the amnesty in there. They have all the other changes they made, free family leave that the taxpayer is going to pay for. All of that. And more. They want to blow out college loans. So all of you people who never went to college, never finished college, or all you people who went to college and paid off your loans, you're not going to be subsidizing people who went to Harvard and Stanford and God knows where else, who took out loans. I don't know, did they ask you to co-sign any of those loans? Did they ask your permission? No, but they're going to be on the backs of the taxpayer. That is your children and grandchildren. That's considered progress, where somebody else takes out a loan and you pay for it effectively. Did you see where 61% of the people don't pay any federal income taxes? I'm not talking about payroll taxes, income taxes. 61%. And so Biden has a great idea. Massively increase taxes on the 39% who do pay income taxes. That'll fix it. And then give more freebies to the people in the 61% who pay no federal income taxes. Oh, that'll fix it. That'll help. Because, again, as I've told you repeatedly, the Democrat Party is about the Democrat Party. It wants to use the institution of government, a 3 million strong bureaucracy, the courts, academia, and whatever else it needs to use or can use to empower itself. It's the United States of the Democrat Party, not the United States of America. That's what they're up to. That's what the book American Marxism explains. It's what it's all about. They have their media, whether it's the Compost or the Slimes, the Daily Beast, Huffington Post, Salon, a radical commie rag. They've got their morons, excuse me, on MSLSD. Like Tom Nichols. Oh, Tom Nichols. Oh, yes. He's a professor of stupid. Never heard of him before. But he's raised his head, so now we see him. He's on my radar. With the Mona Charen. Oh, that Mona Charen, she's unbelievable. Hadn't said anything intelligent in years. Boring. And helped lay the foundation to bring us the great Joe Biden. And all the failures that entails, like all these other never-Trumpers. Never-Trumpers, always stupid. Never-Trumpers, always stupid. Now, I'm going to get a list. I just have to find out of all the taxes that are now going to be in this bill. And even for many of you who don't pay federal income taxes, it's going to affect you. Those of you who own farms and ranches, those of you who own homes. Some of you think you're in the clear. You're not in the clear. You're going to get killed financially. You're going to get slaughtered. Because they have 1,000 ideas on how to take your money. Remember, it's about the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party, if you keep your money, they can't control what you do with your money. So they need to take your money and control that way. And they are in a full totalitarian mindset. They're issuing subpoenas for the records on Republicans in the House of Representatives, for private citizens, for people who worked in the Trump White House. Because we're going to get to the bottom of this insurrection on January 6th. Are they going to issue any subpoenas for Nancy Pelosi and any? No, of course not. Any of her phone calls? No. Do they want to look at Nancy Pelosi's taxes, anybody, like they did Trump? No, of course not, Nancy. No, we don't do that with Nancy. No. 81-year-old nasty old lady. That's what she is. I'm sorry. That's all she is. 81 years old who has spent her life trying to destroy America, and your children and grandchildren are going to pay a price for it. Then we got the other Mr. Insanity in the Oval Office, about to be 79 years old. He has spent his life destroying America. First he was a segregationist, then he was tough on crime. Now he's a Bernie Sanders sycophant, you know, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And so this bill is going to change many aspects of your life. It will make permanent the Democrat Party as the majority party. This is why they're pushing it through with the tiniest of margins. This is why Biden took time out of his greatest surrender in American history, maybe world history, that we've never seen anything like this. Oh, my God. Cargo planes coming and going and coming and going. We have never surrendered like this before, folks. Yes. And by the way, in this bill, as Congresswoman Debbie Lesko says, she's great, gives the Biden Department of Justice authority to designate a voter ID law as a voting rights violation, as evidence of voting discrimination. It federalizes and nationalizes the election procedures, and there would never have been a constitution if that had ever been proposed and placed in the original Constitution. How do I know? Because I've read many of the documents related to the various constitutional conventions. This was a big issue. Remember, these states were creating this federal government, this national government. And they wanted to keep certain powers, particularly voting and other powers, in the states as much as possible. And that's what they did. And so the Democrat Party, hating the Constitution, hating capitalism, hating their own country, wanting to reconfigure it so they control everything, and build a paradise right here in America. Oh, it'll be wonderful. They reject the Constitution. Look, they're founding ideologues, intellectually speaking. They all hated the Constitution. Woodrow Wilson hated the Constitution and the Declaration. Herbert Crowley hated it. You can go back to all of them. They all hated it. John Dewey, just like so many in their media and other surrogates hate it. So this bill is a bill that affects every aspect of your life, every corner of the country, that turns the Constitution inside out, that destroys voting integrity in one little vote, with a senile old bastard in the Oval Office, a nasty old woman heading the House of Representatives, a pathetically stupid man by the name of Schumer running the Senate, and the newest, dumbest vice president in American history, Kamala Harris. They want power, that's all. They want to play by the rules. They want power. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Over 2,000 of you, my listeners, made the switch from overpriced wireless carriers to Pure Talk over the past few months. We want the rest of you to join us and to see what we're talking about. If you're with AT&T and Verizon or T-Mobile, your family could save over $800 a year just by switching to Pure Talk. You get great coverage, you can keep your phone and your number, and you'll save a fortune. Pure Talk is the top-rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, with the absolute best consumer service team based right here in America. Does that sound good? Well, it gets better. Right now, get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data, just $30 a month. And if you go over on data, they don't charge you for it. They don't care. Go to puretalkusa.com and enter promo code Levin Podcast. Again, puretalkusa.com, promo code Levin, Levin Podcast. And when you do, you'll save 50% off your first month. That's puretalkusa.com, promo code Levin Podcast. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless.
By the way, Kayleigh McEnany will be on the program next hour, and I have not given up the proper focus on Afghanistan and so forth, but we have 2 battles going on here, one domestic and one foreign. And you can't let these curveballs, these screwballs, and these knuckleballs get past you. You got to swing at them. Americans for Tax Reform, outstanding group, They say the House voted to pass S-Con Resolution 14, the Democrat fiscal year 2022 budget resolution. The Senate's already passed this measure on a party line vote. By voting for this budget, Democrats have fast-tracked Biden's reckless $3.5 trillion, which is really $5.5 trillion, tax and spending spree later this year. The passing of this resolution has now teed off the following proposals. Trillions of dollars in new taxes on working families and small businesses. This budget resolution is the first step toward the Biden plan to raise taxes by $3 trillion over the next decade. Here's what some of it includes. Increasing the corporate tax rate, and by the way, we have small corporations in this country too, from 21% to 28%, which will be passed along to working families in the form of higher prices, fewer jobs, and lower wages. This will give the U.S. a combined state-federal rate of 32%, higher than our foreign competitors, including communist China, which has a 25% total capped corporate tax rate. So we have a communist regime that has a corporate tax rate of a top rate of 25%, and ours will be 32%. At least 2 million small businesses will get hit by Biden's tax hikes. This includes over 1.4 million small business organized as C corporations, that is, family-owned farms impacted by the repeal of what's called a step-up in basis. Every accountant in this country knows what I'm talking about. And pass-through organizations which would be hit by the increase of the top marginal income tax rate of 39.6%. Terrible. Raising the corporate income tax will hit Americans with higher utility bills as the country tries to recover from the pandemic. Customers directly bear the cost of corporate income taxes imposed on utility companies. Investor-owned electric, gas, and water companies must get their billing rates approved by the respective state utility commissions. So if Democrats raise the corporate tax rate, they will have voted to raise your utility bills. Doubling the capital gains tax to 43.4%, a rate more than double China's capital gains tax. Let me repeat that. There's a lot here. So they want to raise the capital gains tax to 43.4%. That includes you folks who have a capital gains when you sell certain things you've invested in. That's more than double Communist China's capital gains tax rate. Now, you see, this is why China's going to clean our clock after Biden's done. He's like the Manchurian candidate, but the real Manchurian candidate. Taking away stepped-up basis and imposing a second death tax by taxing unrealized capital gains at death. Unrealized capital gains at death. This will disproportionately fall on family-owned businesses. Taking away step-up in basis has already been tried and failed. In 1976, Congress eliminated stepped-up basis, but it was so complicated and unworkable, it was restored in 1980. They're going to impose a 15% minimum tax on book income that will disallow the use of important deductions and credits that help promote job creation. Increasing the top tax rate to 39.6%, that's 40%. A tax increase that will fall on small businesses. As noted in a recent Senate Finance Committee report, in 2016, only 42% of net business income in the United States was earned by corporations anyway. New taxes on American energy, including a tax on manufacturers based on their methane production, and a carbon border tax. So here we go with the carbon taxes. These tax increases will be passed along to you in the form of higher prices. They're going to create 21% global minimum tax, higher than the 15% global minimum tax the Biden administration is pushing other countries to enact. So our minimal global tax will be higher than the minimal global tax in other countries. Because existing law denies foreign tax credits, this could see businesses pay a top 26.25% global minimal tax. Repeal the deduction for foreign-derived intangible income, a tax cut that encourages businesses to house their intellectual property here in the United States. $80 billion in new IRS funding to hire 87,000 new IRS agents. You want that? They'll be able to audit and harass individuals and small businesses, American families, because they claim by doing that they'll get another $787 billion. It would hire enough new IRS agents to fill national parks twice. 87,000. It'll help implement the Biden plan to create a new comprehensive financial account information reporting regime, which would force the disclosure of any business or personal account, yours, that exceeds $600. Not only will it include bank, loan, and investment accounts of virtually every individual and business, but it'll also do it with third parties, your businesses with third parties like PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo. Boy, they're going to have a lot of data. New IRS funding will also be a boon to the union that represents IRS employees. This union, the National Treasury Employees Union, shovels 97% of their money into the Democrat campaign coffers. So now they'll have more money because they're going to hire 87,000 members. IRS employees also regularly perform union work on the taxpayer's dime. Socialist health care policies. The Pelosi plan seeks to impose new taxes and government prices on American medical innovation. It creates a 95% excise tax on manufacturers, imposes an international reference pricing scheme that directly imports foreign price controls into the United States. Now, you're like, good. You know what that means? No more innovation. These companies steal our technology. They steal from our patents. No more innovation. Why don't they have a drug that addresses Alzheimer's? Because they're not going to put any more money in it. Because they can't make the money back. We wouldn't have these vaccines either. More when I return.
Mark Levin, America's Tyranny Hunter. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
I wasn't done, ladies and gentlemen. I was rudely interrupted by capitalism, you might say, as I discuss this Marxist socialist agenda. So socialist healthcare policies, this is what's in the bill. Plan to impose new taxes and government price controls on American medical innovation. I mean, they just destroy. This proposal will reduce access to new life-saving, life-preserving medicines. According to research by the Galen Institute, the U.S. had access to 90% of new cures launched between 2011 and 2018, a rate far greater than comparable foreign countries. For instance, the United Kingdom had access to 60% of the medicines, Japan 50%, Canada just 44% because they are government-centric socialist healthcare systems. You had access to 90% of new cures. It'll also threaten high-paying manufacturing jobs across the country at a time when we're just emerging from the economic wreckage from the pandemic. And these drug companies invest $100 billion in the U.S. economy every year, $100 billion. They create 800,000 jobs. But there's trillions in new welfare spending that will allow the federal government to promote woke policies. That includes hundreds of billions in funding for free so-called pre-K and community college to, quote, close the equity gap, unquote. Part of this funding will ensure classroom environments that are, quote, inclusive for all students, unquote. Perhaps you've heard of CRT. Critical race theory? Have you heard of that? $10 billion to create a civilian climate corps. Now, this is scary stuff. A civilian climate corps. That reminds me of the black and white films from the 1930s and 20s and 40s. Does it you, Mr. Producer? A civilian climate corps. The program will help set the stage for the Green New Deal. And it will include free government housing, transportation, salaries to, quote, advance environmental justice, unquote. You better get that American Marxism book and spread it as widely and far as you possibly can. If you have a copy, please read it. Please pass it. Get it at the library. You can also acquire a copy, actually buy one, get it into as many hands as humanly possible, and have people look at it as fast as possible, because it's coming. It's already here, but it's coming big. Big. New spending to make child care, quote-unquote, affordable and to promote, quote, culturally and linguistically responsive environments, unquote. I'm telling you now, this bill is, well, it's the American Communist Manifesto. How do you like that name, Mr. Producer? It's the American Communist Manifesto from our American Marxists. New federal subsidies to, quote, improve housing affordability and equity, and to encourage green and sustainable housing. Now, for you folks on Medicare, it lowers the Medicare eligibility age, expands coverage to dental, vision, and hearing. Many people like that. The trustees of Medicare say it's going broke in 2 to 4 years. Now, why would you lower the age and expand it when it's going broke? There won't be any money to support it because they're spending it on other stuff. In fact, they've taken money out of Medicare for Obamacare, and now they've taken money out of Medicare for these other programs. So this is a reckless proposal that will lead to massive increased prices for goods and services, massive increase in taxes, including on those of you who right now aren't paying federal income taxes, for working families and small businesses, tens of trillions of dollars over time in new welfare programs and radical policies. Now, for you people who live in congressional districts where you have a congressman who claims to be a moderate, like this guy Goshmeyer, whatever the hell his name is, in northern New Jersey, and there are many of them. There's about 10 or 12 of them. They're not moderates. They all just voted for this. All of them, every single one of them. They voted to proceed with this. And they'll give you some cockamamie story about, well, we voted first for the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and now I don't care. They could stop this, but they voted for it, every one of them. Every one of the moderates, they caved. Josh Gosheimer is a sellout. You can call up Josh, whatever the hell your name is. He's a little fellow, probably a Napoleonic complex. He knocked out a great congressman at conservative by running around saying, he's anti-gay, he's anti-gay. And apparently that was very effective in the suburbs of New Jersey. Knocked out a great congressman. Now we have a moderate. He's part of the, what is it called? The Will Do Caucus. What is it called? A We Can Get Things Done Caucus, or whatever. Votes for impeachment, votes for every radical kook idea that comes up. But he's giving Nancy Pelosi trouble. There's your corrupt media trying to save this guy. He's a fraud. All 10 of them are. The 10 moderates. And what have they done that are moderate? Nothing. They just voted for this. You're out of your mind if you vote for these people. You're voting for your own pain and suffering and destruction. And this is just part of it. This is a little piece of it. All the social engineering, the attack on our voting. Imagine you're voting, and you know your vote really doesn't matter anymore because they're handing out ballots like lollipops all over the place. They caught this guy sleeping in his car. What did he have, 300 ballots for Newsom, Mr. Producer? And then they're telling people they can print their ballots? I mean, what is this? This isn't democracy. It's tyranny. You can print your ballot? And we trust you. Oh, we trust you. Just print one, and they know what they're doing. The Democrat Party is utterly corrupt. Got to count every vote, baby. Count every vote. I don't care. What are you accusing us of, fraud? Not one of your cases in court won. Not one. Excuse me. You think we're stupid? When you destroy all the barriers to corruption and fraud? And there's one party pushing it, the Democrat Party. They don't care. The Constitution, the rule of law, equal justice, due process. No. Destroy the cops, destroy the military, destroy the border, destroy our foreign policy. This is a hateful, poisonous, cancerous party. It always has been. Slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, democratic socialism. They hate the country. Look at these fools. And yet they become rich and powerful off your backs and the backs of Americans who came before us. Look at these fraud, the squad of commies. The squad of commies. We're really going to stop these landlords, Mr. Producer, in America. We're going to stop them. Then we find out one makes $10,000, $50,000 a year as a landlord. Wow. Who would have thought? A Marxist landlord. Aren't we proud? Which one is it? Is it the bald one or the other one? I can't remember. Yeah. Ayanna Pressley. They have other kinds of investments here and there. Sure. They don't expect you. You don't expect them to live. And what's Cory Bush? Now there's a genius. Cory Bush. I need protection. I need personal protection. Look at me. My physicality will come under attack. Look at me. Get the police, but I get protection. She should be thrown out on her ass by her electorate, but she won't be. She won't be. Look at all the frauds. Nancy Pelosi. She won't release her tax returns. Why not? How much is she worth? And that big, stupid, dumb husband of hers. He's in finances. Oh, that's like the overall word or term for what the hell is he doing? He's in finances, and they have a home, and they have a winery. They got walls and fences and protection and military flights, but they're for the people. Now look at her. Look at her. Despite the heavy-duty work that's been done on her, look at her. Does she look like she's for the people? When's the last time she was down with the people? Never. Oh, yes. And Schumer. You see that tape where he's dancing with Steve Colbert? You call that dancing? I think he was having a stroke, Mr. Producer. Walking around, his arms are flying. He's he's davening. His arms are bouncing around. I said, oh, my God. Who's that? That's Schumer? And the other fraud, Stephen Colbert, with the Spock ears. Yeah, the Spock ears. But, you know, Biden and Schumer have a lot in common. They both got their plugs around the same time. Are you aware of that, Mr. Producer? Yeah, they got their cornrows up there right on their foreheads. They look a lot better, don't they? Oh, my God. Makes all the difference in the world. You know, I favor a mask mandate. I really do. Don't be upset. I favor it. For people like Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and Biden, because I don't want to see their faces. I really don't. In fact, I favor a burqa mandate for those three, to be perfectly honest with you. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Over 2,000 of you, my listeners, made the switch from overpriced wireless carriers to Pure Talk over the past few months. We want the rest of you to join us and to see what we're talking about. If you're with AT&T and Verizon or T-Mobile, your family could save over $800 a year just by switching to Pure Talk. You get great coverage, you can keep your phone and your number, and you'll save a fortune. Pure Talk is the top-rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs, with the absolute best consumer service team based right here in America. Does that sound good? Well, it gets better. Right now, get unlimited talk, text, and 6 gigs of data, just $30 a month. And if you go over on data, they don't charge you for it. They don't care. Go to puretalkusa.com and enter promo code Levin Podcast. Again, puretalkusa.com, promo code Levin, Levin Podcast. And when you do, you'll save 50% off your first month. That's puretalkusa.com, promo code Levin Podcast. Pure Talk USA, simply smarter wireless.
Bad for Rachel Campos Duffy, who I happen to like a lot. Don't know her, but I've been on Fox and Friends a couple of times. She's really good on the weekend. But she's coming under attack because she dared to say that Dr. Jill Biden, that she, as the wife, should have made sure her husband didn't run. knowing his mental incapacity. My God. They attacked her. What? Now, Mr. Producer, I think I've been saying that for, what, a year? Maybe a year and a half? It's okay. She's right. I should know. I've been saying it for a year and a half. Dr. Jill Biden, I believe she plays a medical doctor. Dr. Everybody else does now. Dr. Jill Biden should have told her husband, honey, you know I love you, through thick and thin. Through, what is it again? Through good times and bad. But you're dumb as a rock, honey. It's not your fault. You started out that way in life, and it's only gotten worse since, and now you're walking into walls. So, honey, you can't run from it. Everybody's saying, Dr. Jill Biden, where the hell was she? She wanted to be first birthing person in the most desperate way. What a family. You got that youngster Hunter. He's something else, with the prostitutes and the drugs and the money and all the rest of that. What did Joe say about his son? He's the smartest person he's ever met. Remember that, Mr. Producer? And I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that for a minute. I actually think Hunter Biden would be a better Secretary of State than this Antony Blinken. What do you think of that? Oh, yeah. I have a beautiful, relatively inexpensive piece of jewelry being put in a setting for my lovely wife. Can you believe that, Mr. Producer? I found a place that customized makes settings. I don't even know how. I just Googled the thing. It's a wonderful family, and they are good. Oh, my, oh, my. And they give me the senior citizen discount. You know, like when you go to McDonald's and there's elderly people there. No, I want the 40-cent coffee. I want the... Okay, please, I'm going to go through the drive-thru. You ever been there? You ever hear that, Mr. Producer? I said no ice with the soda. No ice. Okay. Please. A little bit of ice won't hurt you. No, it does. It's bad for you. It is? Yes. Anyway, so I'm only mentioning it because I'm very excited about this. I designed it with the guy. We designed it together. It's very cool. Look, folks, you got to get lost in some of this stuff, as I said yesterday, the day before, last week. I mean, I have to read this stuff day in and day out. I've got to soak myself in it so we know what we're talking about, so I can think about it and maybe come up with some ideas and some aspects of it. So every now and then you got to break off. I told you this. I watch the, the Gem Shopping Network, HGTV, The American Picker, my good buddy, one of my favorite shows, Pawn Stars, which is on Saturdays now. I have to do it. In the Gem Shopping Network, they have these wheels. Have you ever seen it, mister? They go round and round and round, and the jewelry is beautiful, and you just keep staring at it, and then eventually I go to sleep. Did you know this, Rich? You've watched it? You've seen it? And by the way, some of their hosts are very good. They got good one-liners. They got some of them are really quite good. Marvin, he's one of the guys I like. I like them all, but one of Marvin. We're moving and grooving. I start cracking up because they're like me. They're corny. I'm corny. I can't help it, you know. But it's very funny. And Pawn Stars, I love that show. I love Rick very, very much. Harrison. In this show, American Pickers, for some reason that show drives my wife nuts. Maybe it can be. And then sometimes I have to watch the first 48. You ever watch the first 48? You got to love these homicide detectives. How they do this day in and day out, I don't know. What they see is the worst. All right, folks, we'll get back to business. Don't worry. We have a full hour, including Kaylee McEnany. I'll see you in a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, this final hour of the podcast is sponsored exclusively by AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. Now over 2 million conservative members strong, AMAC believes in and stands up for the values that we care about: faith, family, and freedom. Thank you for listening, and please support AMAC. And you can become a member at amac.us/join.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. I will get some calls after the bottom of the hour. And by the way, I didn't mean to slight Brian or Daniel or Deanna or Hunter or Jason or Kurt or Marvin. Well, I didn't, actually. Mike and Rob and Sky and Wes. These are some of the other hosts at the Gem Shopping Network, mister. Are you familiar with this network? Hello. All right. Kevin McCarthy was in good form today. He was very angry today. You can't tell when Mitch McConnell's angry, can you? I can't tell. The gums start flapping and all the rest there. I think he's been a disaster for a long time. I really do. And here's Kevin McCarthy. Cut 12, go.
We now have 5,000 prisoners that were released in Afghanistan. We have more than 100 different countries of individuals coming across our southern border. We have a president that opened it up. Now is the time to close it. This country is less safe today than we were 20 years ago based upon the actions that have just taken place. Allowing Taliban to control our foreign policy, weaponizing them. Reports now that they have more Black Hawks than Australia. From the aircraft, to the drones, to the weaponry. They have more support than they had before, just from their own military buildup of the weapons that they've taken from America. Now a border that is open, and a fear of what the future holds. This has all got to change. And the presidency has to change his foreign policy as well.
And he won't, because he's really... We've talked about this before. He's really a very stupid and stubborn man, and that is a very bad combination. And he's an egomaniac on top of everything else. So these are the characteristics of a narcissist. So when you have a narcissist who also is moving into mid-stage of dementia, you have a problem on your hands. There's no way to get to the guy. You can't use rationality and reason. You can't get to the guy. And he's an extremely dangerous man. Extremely dangerous man. And it disgusts me that Donald Trump could be impeached twice for nothing. And this guy the attempt isn't even made to impeach him once. And one of the reasons is we have a vile, evil person as Speaker of the House. As a former Speaker, Newt Gingrich said a couple of weeks ago on Life, Liberty, and Levin, she's destroyed the House of Representatives. But don't worry, she still has her $400 ice cream and her big pearls around her neck and her routine appearance with her plastic surgeon and all of her very wealthy friends without their masks eating at a winery. Oh, yeah. She is a quintessential Mercedes Marxist. That's what she is. And I want you to listen to the poison that pours out of that heavily manipulated face. Cut 14, go.
Now, even with the election in 2020, we see even more need because of the actions taken during the election in 2020 and since. and all the more need not just for H.R. 4, but for H.R. 1, now S1, in the Senate. The suppression of the vote is not only the suppression of the vote, the nullification of elections that they are putting forth. There are probably 20...
What is this stupid old nasty woman mumbling about? What the hell is she talking about? She led the charge on Russia collusion. She tried to remove a duly elected president twice. She pushed hard for a criminal investigation. She did everything she possibly could like a good Soviet, and it didn't work. And now she's with that Katharine Hepburn and mumbling buffoonish woman, birthing person, to suppress the vote, nullification of elections. This is a very, very sick, evil woman. What did he say? I said she's very sick and evil. For all the scribes and transcribers out there, for all of the Soros-funded and other kook-funded websites and so forth, you don't have to write fast. It's all on my website, isn't it, Mr. Producer? Tell them, where do they go if they want to hear my show? It's called the Audio Rewind, marklevinshow.com. You get paid, and I hand you the transcripts. Why can't we make it easier for people to vote? Why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? See, ladies and gentlemen, because we have what's called people who cheat. If we didn't have people who cheat, we wouldn't have prisons. We wouldn't need police forces, and we wouldn't need prosecutors, which is pretty much where the Democrats are anyway. But you get my point. And the Democrat Party cheats far more than the Republican Party. That's a fact. How do you think John Kennedy got to be president of the United States? How do you think Lyndon Johnson got to be a senator? We can go down the whole list. And most of the cheating occurs in the big cities because it's easier. It's just easier to cheat where you have a density of people. And who controls most of the big cities? The Democrat Party machine. So nobody's fooling anybody around here. It's so hard to vote in America. Meanwhile, they praise Joe Biden. It's the most fantastic surrender we've ever seen. Just get to the airport. Get past the Taliban with the machine guns. That's all. Just have your papers. If they take them, then I guess you don't really want to leave. I mean, we've contacted you 19 times. What the hell's the problem? Meanwhile, vote. It's so hard to vote in America. It's so easy to get out of Afghanistan. It's so hard to vote in America. It's so easy to get out of Afghanistan. These people are certifiable. They're nuts. They're power hungry. Yes, what a grand success. The Chinese now have our top military equipment. The Russians now have our top military equipment. They now are building alliances with our enemy that was once their enemy. Our allies don't trust us because of Biden. There's not a single positive thing that has come out of this. But Nancy Pelosi, just fantastic. But those damn Republicans, get the Republicans. You would think DeSantis is the head of the Taliban. You would think the Republicans are Al-Qaeda. This is how sick these bums are. Hello, this is how sick they are. Because we won't roll over when they want to take 60, 70, 80% of our money, state, feds, locals combined. Because we don't want our kids to be brainwashed to hate America and to become little racists like they have in the Democrat Party. And we want our kids to be taught about sex education from us, not about the transgender movement. An entire movement? Oh, yes. We believe in securing the borders. Why? Let anybody in who wants to come in. As long as American citizens do what we tell them to do. Vaccines, masks, all the whole thing. But what about these people coming across the border? What people? Nobody, no. We've locked down the border. What another major success. You know what's interesting? As much as I loathe all of them, I have to be honest, I loathe them. I despise them. I think I loathe and despise Nancy Pelosi the most, Mr. Producer. Because when you look at her and you look at Biden, you look at Schumer, unbelievably, I think she's the dumbest of the three. I really do. I think she's the dumbest of the three. It's a close call, don't get me wrong. It's a close call. But she just is power hungry, just exercises power for power's sake. She never intends to live the way she expects the rest of us to live. And her entire family. Same with the Bidens. They get away with it. They're corrupt as hell. They got a corrupt son. No big deal. They got the New York Slimes protecting them the way the New York Slimes protect Stalin, Hitler, and Castro. It's no big deal. They'll protect the Biden family. That's chump change. That's small stuff. They're used to protecting real genocidal maniacs. Biden's nothing. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, is one of the fastest growing organizations in America. Now over 2 million conservative members strong, and I'm one of them. AMAC believes in and stands up for the values that we constitutional conservatives care about. More than talk, AMAC fights. A full-time presence in Washington, AMAC pushes back against reckless spending, disasters like Medicare for All, and the expanding reach of the federal government. And beyond advocacy, joining AMAC gives you access to a wealth of benefits and discounts, including special member-only rates on car insurance, travel discounts, cell phone plans, and a hell of a lot more. And if that's not enough, you'll get AMAC's bi-monthly magazine, full of insightful articles on issues that matter to most of us, we conservatives. As I said, I'm an AMAC member, and you should be too. Join today at amac.us. That's AMAC.us. Stop supporting the liberal agenda that the other 50-plus organization has been pushing for. Join AMAC instead. AMAC.us.
Well, we have a little problem here, ladies and gentlemen, in all seriousness. From the San Diego Union Tribune, at least 24 students from the Cajun Valley Union School District in El Cajun, is that how you pronounce that? Beats me. And 16 parents are stranded in Afghanistan after taking a summer trip abroad. Why the hell would you take a summer trip to Afghanistan? But anyway, they're among thousands of individuals waiting to leave the country amid political unrest caused by the U.S. military pullout after 20 years of occupation, they write. 20 years of occupation? Who writes this crap? Karen Perlman? By the way, somebody wake up Pasaki. Oh, there you go. I don't have their phone number, Pasaki, but there's 24 students from the Cajun Valley Union School District in El Cajun and 16 of their parents. That's 40 Americans in Afghanistan. Somebody wake up Blinken. Or Milley. All hands on deck, right? Cajun Valley Superintendent David Mashiro told school district board members via text that he and the other Cajun Valley staff met virtually with U.S. Representative Darrell Issa and his staff about the situation. Why don't they contact the president? Oh, he's busy. He's busy watching the wallpaper dry in the White House Oval Office there. The superintendent said that the families are on special visas for U.S. military service and that the Department of Defense considers them allies. Considers them allies? What are they talking about, Mr. Producer? Aren't these students... They're students from California, aren't they? Am I misreading this? U.S. Airmen, the San Diego... That's a San Diego County school district. Students from the United States. U.S. considers them allies. I certainly hope so. The missing students attend different schools in the 28 school district in eastern San Diego County. Mike Serban, who heads the district's Family and Child Engagement Program, I don't know, do they have somebody who heads the Afghan engagement program, which works with the district's many refugee families and provides interpreters, was the one who first got word about the students' plight. I hope some reporters listening to this. You said that at the point, Serban reached out to Maya Shiro and others to let them know there was an issue with many children attending Cajun Valley schools. Whose idea was this? But apart from that, these are 40 American citizens, 24 of whom are students, 16 of whom are parents. So this list needs to be handed to Psaki. Folks, what's going to happen here is there's going to be many, many people left behind. And the media will not be able to get in there. They're already shutting down the media. They're killing journalists already over there. A CNN reporter had to run for her life. The woman who interviewed the top Yabba Dabba Doo over there, who said, we're going to treat women well. Yes, I want people to know we're going to have democracy in the context of Islam. That's correct. She just fled. She fled the country. Anybody with half a noodle is going to flee that country. That's why when Biden says, any American who wants to leave, what do you mean any American who wants to leave, you idiot? But here we have now 24 students and 16 parents stranded. May I use that word? I think I will. Stranded in Afghanistan. Stranded. Pelosi thinks this is going swell. I've said before she ought to swap positions with some woman over in, birthing person over in Afghanistan. See how it goes. They really believe in masks over there. They believe in the whole kit and caboodle, with or without a virus. Kind of like Nancy, who's ordering masks in the Capitol building for other members of Congress. Taliban-esque, I suppose you could call it. Is that a word? I don't know. I'll make it up. A school, children, and their parents in Afghanistan. And if you listen to this clown who's Secretary of State, you listen to this clown, this communications director admiral over at Defense, and you listen to this clown in the Oval Office, I think they call him Joe Biden. Everything's going hunky-dory, ladies and gentlemen. It's the greatest event, military, civilian, foreign we've ever seen, and they're very upset with the kind of press they're getting. Very, very upset. White House to media, Politico. We want our props on Afghan. We want our props. What's going on? Come on. Where's Jim Acosta when we need him? Where's D. Lemon, Fredo Cuomo? Where's, what's the rest of them? Where's that schmuck from the Washington Post? Oh, Jeremy Barr. Where's Jeremy Barr? We're going to have a whole book written about how fantastic this is by Professor Tom Nichols, Mr. Producer. The only problem is nobody will read it because nobody knows who he is. And the people who know who he is think he's a putz. So nobody's going to read Tom Nichols. Who? Exactly. When we come back, the great Kayleigh McEnany.
AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, is one of the fastest growing organizations in America, now over 2 million conservative members strong, and I'm one of them. AMAC believes in and stands up for the values that we constitutional conservatives care about. More than talk, AMAC fights. A full-time presence in Washington, AMAC pushes back against reckless spending, disasters like Medicare for All, and the expanding reach of the federal government. And beyond advocacy, joining AMAC gives you access to a wealth of benefits and discounts, including special member-only rates on car insurance, travel discounts, cell phone plans, and a hell of a lot more. And if that's not enough, you'll get AMAC's bi-monthly magazine, full of insightful articles on issues that matter to most of us, we conservatives. As I said, I'm an AMAC member, and you should be too. Join today at amac.us. That's AMAC.us. Stop supporting the liberal agenda that the other 50-plus organization has been pushing for. Join AMAC instead. AMAC.us.
News Radio Free America on The Mark Levin Show. Call now, 877-381-3811.
Kayleigh McEnany is a superstar as the press secretary to the president, Joe Biden, God forbid, Donald Trump, and on Fox, a favorite in the Levin household. How are you, Kayleigh?
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you?
I'm great. Could you imagine being press secretary to this guy? You'd have to lie every other syllable.
And that's exactly what we see. I mean, call it what it is, lying. Why do you think Psaki, who promised us a daily briefing, I never made that promise because my boss was confident enough to stand at the podium and speak, and I was the one who came in when he had other things going on. But she promised us a daily briefing. No wonder she canceled all of them last week, save one, because it would have entailed lying, much of which we've seen from the podium this week.
Well, they're very upset, according to Politico, White House to media. We want our props on Afghanistan because, Kayleigh, this is a fantastic surrender. It's just unbelievable. We've never seen anything like this. Hundreds of thousands of people begging to get out, people being trampled on, the Taliban killing, maiming American citizens. The numbers go from 15,000 down to 1,500 who need to come out. This is absolutely fantastic because the media says this is the biggest airlift in American history. Excuse me. The other airlift they're talking about was in order to help people who were being surrounded by the communists in Berlin. This is a surrender. It's the worst surrender in American history. Now they're upset they're not getting props from the media. What do you think?
Right, and Jim Psaki says that this is a success. How do you call this a success?
Because she's not there.
Stranded.
If she were there, it would be a success.
You're exactly right. It wouldn't be a success if she was there. Not only that, she says no Americans are stranded in Afghanistan. Obviously, they were. Now she says we will probably leave behind stranded Americans. That's absolutely the case. But you hit it out of the park, Mark. They want adulation. They want praise. That's what they're used to. You know, we as a press shop, when I was in the White House, we didn't have the media covering for us. We knew that every time I walked to that podium, it would be a bloodbath of reporters shouting at me, both as I entered, as I exited, as I was standing at the podium. But, you know, she gets to walk in scot-free. So does Joe Biden. They are used to the press covering. But in this one instance, they don't have a covering press, and they can't handle it, which is why they're flailing in the wind.
Although they're starting to, because I'm starting to hear them repeat and regurgitate that talking point about this is the greatest, air transport or whatever you want to call it in history, and things are going much more smoothly now. But here's the thing. You have the Secretary of State getting up there saying, yeah, August 31, we're going to be pulling out our troops, but we're still going to be trying to get our people out of there. We're going to use diplomacy and our economic might. What in the hell is he talking about?
Yeah, exactly. What is he talking about? And he conceded that they're relying on the Taliban to get all this done. I mean, what a stunning admission. Yesterday, it was incredible to see the turn of events where around noon before we hit the air on Fox, you get this reporting that Biden's committed to this August 31st deadline. I'm looking in my inbox. Literally within minutes of that reporting was Washington Post reporting that the Taliban is doubling down on their demand for the United States of America, the most powerful country on earth, to leave Afghanistan. This is not negotiating with the Taliban. This is the Taliban dictating United States foreign policy. It is egregious, and it would have never happened. I could tell you, never under President Trump's watch.
You worked very, very closely with President Trump on virtually every issue. In the Oval Office, I saw you there from time to time, and the fact is, you know damn well what he'd be saying now. He'd put his foot down and so forth. So Joe Biden has blamed President Trump, and now they're even blaming the people who were there. Did you hear the Secretary of State say, we sent them 19 heads-up emails and contacts, and they should have started getting out of there. And now he's blaming the victims.
Right. Blaming the victims who, by the way, are staying there because they're saying, I've heard military men and women, Pete Hegseth being one of them, saying that they worked with people who put their bodies on their line, their lives on the line for the United States in partnership with the United States. And they're staying because they want to be protective of those who are so loyal to them. These are heroes. They're not to be blamed, but you're exactly right. They're blaming them. And one point, you mentioned seeing me in the Oval with President Trump. Yes. President Trump, the one thing I can say about him is with President Trump, you had someone who was controlling his staff, not the other way around. You now have a president that is controlled by his staff, not a staff that controls the president. I mean, with President Trump, I would say to him occasionally, hey, maybe today's not the best day for questions, but he'd always walk to that microphone, flanked by Fauci, Birx during COVID. He knew Fauci was out to contradict him and get him, but he still went to the microphone, looked the American people in the eye, and answered the hard questions during a pandemic. Now you have a president who just simply doesn't have the capacity to do it, and a staff that controls him and keeps him away from the microphone as best they can.
I was just told that Fauci's wife serves as the head of the Department of Bioethics at the National Institute of Health Clinical Center. Have you heard this?
Oh, first time learning, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Now, I don't know if it's true. There's a person I trust sent it to me and sent me a couple of links. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not trashing the person. I'm not attacking her in any way. I'm just saying, is that possible that his wife is the head of the Department of Bioethics at the National Institutes of Health Clinical Center? Again, I could be dead wrong. I'll have to look into this. You never heard of this either, right?
First time hearing of it, but it wouldn't surprise me with Dr. Fauci. He's of his own breed. There's no doubt about it. The man has been wrong about just about everything. Loved contradicting the president, but I've never, in government, you
and
have
himself, by the way.
And himself, correct. You have these career officials that exist from administration to administration. I can tell you the only way you survive as long as the dinosaur St. Dr. Anthony Fauci is to learn to play politics, which is exactly what he did, cozying up to Trump, tide changes. Biden's now the name of the game. But make no mistake, this guy's unscientific. He's a liberal activist disguised as a doctor.
He's been in Washington longer than Biden. Both been there half a century. And let me tell you this. As someone who worked in the Reagan administration, duking it out with most bureaucrats, not all, but most, you can't possibly be in the same position almost 40 years without having very long fangs and very long fingernails. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I heard from others who, I won't reveal their names, but very credible individuals within the United States government who told me a lot of stories about Dr. Fauci, who, by the way, as they noted to me, never sat across from a patient. This guy's an academic. He studies science. He studies medicine, but he doesn't actually treat people. Big difference when you actually sit across from a patient who needs a life-saving drug. Dr. Fauci's discredited himself, and I think at this point all can see, even beyond the right, which exposed him long ago.
Yes, but big tech loves him, and nobody knows medicine better than these goofballs that run these tech companies. How do you like the your Fox position now? You do an excellent job over there.
Well, thank you. I'm loving it. It's been a lot of fun each and every day. Fun in that I get to go out and share my opinion to the nation. Of course, Fox #1 in viewership and outnumbered, of course. But it's also been heartbreaking. I got to tell you, I spoke to Trump yesterday, and he's crushed to see what happened in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to just being totally vindicated on where he stood, this is a guy who has a broken heart for a country that shouldn't turn out this way, would have never been this way under President Trump. But it's heartbreaking to watch this play out in the news and live it every single day in the 12 p.m. hour.
Somebody found a video of Biden. Wasn't that old, maybe 7-8 years ago, where he says, "What does it mean to be an American anyway? Why is that so special? Somebody give me a definition of American." Now, I'm paraphrasing. I mean, it's unbelievable how stupid that man is and how, in my view, unpatriotic he is. And one thing you could say about Donald Trump is he loves this country and he loves the people of this country. I don't believe you can say the same about Biden, who was right up until now talking about how racist America is. And so we're just buying into that whole American Marxist agenda and tearing down the country.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to work for a president who hugged the American flag, and I love that image of him, just a complete love, compassion for this country and those who within it. And then Biden, wow, what a misnomer. Forever he misled us as if he was, Mr. Compassionate. That's what he was known for, being empathetic. And now you have him doing an interview, Afghans hanging from planes, human remains found in a wheel, and he said that was 4 or 5 days ago, and says no one's being killed when, in fact, they are. He's not compassionate. He doesn't love this country. I completely agree with you. And, wow, we're only 8 months in. We got 3 years plus to deal with, and man, I'm sad to see what happens.
It's like a prison sentence. Well, Kaylee, I want to thank you very, very much, and God bless you, my friend, and continued good job and good health.
Thank you, and great job with American Marxism. I bought it in the airport, absolutely loved it.
Thank you. Did you hold it out and people kind of gag? I'm just kidding.
Oh, no, I leave the cover on. Some people who are closet conservatives take it off. I left it on, held it up on the plane proudly.
You're very gutsy. I want to thank you. Take care of yourself. Best to your husband.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, be well. Isn't she fantastic? And by the way, her husband, great couple. I can remember a book signing, I don't know how many years ago. It wasn't ultra long ago, at in the Palm Beach Gardens area. I think it was a Barnes & Noble. And she and her husband came for the book signing. Always a smile on her face. Have you noticed that, Mr. Producer? Always a smile on her face, unlike Dr. Jill Biden. Always grimacing. And, of course, Joe Biden, who needs a full-time doctor, always has that constipated look, does he not? Always looks like he's suffering from some kind of bowel problem. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, is one of the fastest-growing organizations in America, now over 2 million conservative members strong, and I'm one of them. AMAC believes in and stands up for the values that we constitutional conservatives care about. More than talk, AMAC fights. A full-time presence in Washington, AMAC pushes back against reckless spending, disasters like Medicare for All, and the expanding reach of the federal government. And beyond advocacy, joining AMAC gives you access to a wealth of benefits and discounts, including special member-only rates on car insurance, travel discounts, cell phone plans, and a hell of a lot more. And if that's not enough, you'll get AMAC's bi-monthly magazine, full of insightful articles on issues that matter to most of us, we conservatives. As I said, I'm an AMAC member, and you should be too. Join today at amac.us. That's AMAC.us. Stop supporting the liberal agenda that the other 50-plus organization has been pushing for. Join AMAC instead. AMAC.us.
From our schools and entertainment to the media and government, we're witnessing an onslaught of repressive actions, including threats, censorship, character assassination, and demand for more of it. Karl Marx would approve. In fact, banning people, speech, words, broadcasts, social media access, redefining language, history, knowledge, and science, all of which are occurring or pursued in our current culture and environment, are the trademarks of totalitarianism. So, too, is the routine and unchallenged abuse of power and undermining of republicanism and constitutionalism by President Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, who legislates via executive orders, thereby bypassing Congress and the Constitution's checks and balances to institute fundamental change to American society without input from the people. And we go on. Yet it is the opponents of tyranny who are labeled, often successfully, as the offenders of civil liberties and human rights, obstructors of progress and foes of the people by the actual offenders, for the latter have already devoured most of the instrumentalities of the state and culture and dominate the narrative. In his book Double Talk, The Language of Communism, Harry Hodgkinson wrote, quote, "Language was to Marx the direct reality of thought. Ideas do not exist divorced from it. And for Joseph Stalin, the reality of thought manifests itself in language." In other words, this is all propaganda. Words are tools as well as weapons, each fashioned for a precise function. The language of communism is not so much a means of explaining to an unbeliever what communism means, but an armory of weapons and tools intended to produce support or dissolve opposition to communist policies on the part of people, either hostile or indifferent to them. The meaning of a communist word is not what you think it says, but what effect it is intended to produce. Hence, you have Nancy Pelosi all day saying, if you oppose their sweeping bill, you oppose individuals voting. This is what I mean by American Marxism. She fits the bill. She's the speaker of American Marxism. Hodgkins also writes, to communists, a majority has no particular sanctity, and is called upon to do not what it wishes, but its duty before the court of history. Choice between parties is a drab formality, a bourgeois democracy, he argued. Democracy is generally used with a qualifying adjective, like democratic socialism, you see. Hence, Marxist Senator Bernie Sanders uses the qualifying adjective democratic socialist. Even so, as Sanders knows, to the communists such a phrase is no more than an essential stage on the road to communism. The wave of repression sweeping our nation is not unlike the earliest days of the French, Russian, and Chinese revolutions among them. All were promoted as popular movements and people's revolutions, intended to establish Rousseauian communalism or Marxist egalitarianism. But that's where the similarity ends. The revolutionaries were sold as liberation movements, where the masses of the proletariat would rise up against the governing tyranny and corrupt society. Of course, they became genocidal police states. Of course, unlike these other governments and societies, America is a constitutional representative republic, not a monarchy or other form of dictatorship. There's no widespread dissatisfaction in the country. In fact, most Americans are patriotic and revere the country. But the forces of false liberation today are led by fanatical ideologues and activists, who are the real purveyors of tyranny and even totalitarianism. They use propaganda, sabotage, and subversion in an effort to demoralize, destabilize, and ultimately destroy the existing society and culture. It is they who are repressing the liberties of their fellow citizens through what is loosely called the cancel culture. It is they who demand conformity of thought by banning differing views from social media. It is they who use the false narrative of oppressors and oppressed to stigmatize those who claim a part of the white dominant culture and silence the voices of fellow citizens. It is they who are banning words, books, products, movies, and historical symbols. Sounds like the Taliban almost. It is they who are destroying the careers of doubters and boycotting the businesses of nonconformists. It is they who are undermining academic freedom and intellectual curiosity through fear and intimidation. It is they who are distorting American history and brainwashing students. It is they who demand the deplatforming of cable news networks and the muzzling of hosts. And it is they who are using and promoting racism, sexism, ageism, all the isms, as weapons of disunity and rebellion, while claiming to want to end them. Even worse, they are using America's freedom to destroy freedom, and the Constitution to destroy the Constitution. And as their poison spreads throughout the culture, they intend to sow doubt about the country, dispirit the citizenry, and soften the public's innate and reasoned resistance to the point of acquiescence. That is, to the tyranny of the Marxist-inspired and related domestic movements. That's from American Marxism at the end of Chapter 6. I thought it was very relevant today. And because they apply that ideology and these various movements to our own country, to our own domestic situation, it is heartless, it is detached from morality, it is used in lieu of religion, and you wonder why? You wonder why they show no compassion for the people of Afghanistan or our fellow citizens in Afghanistan? You wonder why they are silent as our southern border is overrun while people are being abused physically and in other ways? You wonder why they support the people that they support for public office? Because this is American Marxism. I hope you'll go to Amazon tonight, get your copy, spread the word. We need your help. I want to salute all you heroes, and I want to pray for all you folks in Afghanistan, citizen and non-citizen alike. See you tomorrow.